Turning to a wrap of your top stories of the day, we continue to follow that breaking news out of Northwest Charlotte. Medic confirming one person fighting for their life this morning after a shooting on Esther Lane. That's right near Freedom Drive. We have reached out to CMPD to see if they have any suspects in custody.
Good Thursday morning. Law enforcement here in Catawba County has announced the arrest of a couple of people involved with that party that was turned into a mass shooting scene. They also say they're upset at what one person got as his bond amount. They're calling outrage from the people in the law enforcement community. This after 20-year-old Garen Nathaniel Killian was charged with attempted first-degree murder. Yesterday, he was given a $200,000 bond. He had previously been out on bond of $100,000, this for 7 counts of attempted murder. 2 other suspects, Keandre O'Neal Mack and Tolan Huff Jr., also wanted for attempted murder charges.
All right, we do have one accident that's going to slow you down this morning. It's on I-485. Southbound lanes are being impacted by it. There's a crash there and out towards Wilkinson Boulevard, so you can see where that intersects and all of that red. So make sure you allow for extra drive time if you are heading that way. Southbound lanes again being impacted. Chris?
Well, it's raining. Have the umbrella. Not the best start to your day. And your Guy Roofing 7-day forecast shows we warm up big time after that. But check it out. The heaviest rain right now around Gaston County. That'll continue to push its way further off towards the north. So have the umbrella by the mid to late afternoon. That rain's clearing out. Even a chance for a little bit of sunshine heading into the evening. But then 90 for our back-to-back warmest days of the year so far. Better chance for storms to end your Saturday compared to Sunday.
All right, go slow out there as you head into work. And a reminder, the news does not end here. We're live all day long with breaking news, weather, and traffic.
That's on WCNC Plus. We're streaming there now. Join us and make it a great Thursday.
Streaming live right now at 7 a.m. right here on WCNC Plus. I'm Ben Thompson.
And I'm Lisa Washington. We began this morning with a breaking news update. The Catawba County Sheriff's Office says it has arrested 2 more suspects in that mass shooting at a pool party that left 1 person dead and 11 others hurt. Deputies now telling us the first 2 men you see on the left of your screen, Raekwon Craig and Patrick Tolbert, are now in custody, charged with aiding and abetting. Meanwhile, the Sheriff's Office tells us Keandre Mack and Tolan Huff are still wanted this morning.
And the last man there on the right, 20-year-old Garen Killian, he made his first court appearance where a judge gave him a $200,000 bond and placed him on electronic monitoring. WCNC Charlotte's Richard Devane now live here on WCNC Plus. He's outside the Catawba County Courthouse. And Richard, some folks not especially excited or happy with the treatment that Killian's getting there in court.
Absolutely. They think favorable treatment that he's getting in court, Ben. Good morning to you. Good morning, Lisa. Good Thursday morning to all our plussers out there. Basically, it was a strange scene in the Catawba County Courthouse in that courtroom yesterday. One moment, the sheriff and all the folks who have been investigating this mass shooting were sitting there. Some of them were happy that they were starting the prosecutorial process of making these people seek justice. But then after that bond amount was given, a lot of their faces turned very serious. Now, this is what we're talking about. Take a look at video. This is the situation. We have anger and outrage from some of the members of our law enforcement here in Catawba County. This after 20-year-old Garen Nathaniel Gillian, who you're looking at right now, Killigan, was formally charged with attempted first-degree murder in court. But he was only given a $200,000 bond. 2 other suspects, as you mentioned, Keandre O'Neal Mack and Tolan Huff Jr., also wanted on similar charges. Authorities say all of them are key players in that mass shooting that happened Sunday at a large pool party on Walnut Acres Drive. That's in the Mountain View community. That incident, that shooting where there were more than 80 shell casings found, left 1 person dead. And as you remember, 11 other people injured. The Catawba County Sheriff's Office also announced the arrest of Raekwon Craig and Patrick Tolbert Wednesday. They're arrested on charges of aiding and abetting underage drinking. That's stemming from that party. Investigators say they helped plan that party. Law enforcement is most upset that Killian, who was facing 7 counts of attempted murder for another shooting back in April, was once again given such a low bond amount. Take a listen to the sheriff.
I am outraged. The first suspect we arrested in connection with this mass shooting was given a $200,000 bond.
It is beyond frustrating that someone with pending charges for multiple counts of attempted murder is out in the community in the first place. It is unimaginable that this same person can then be charged with additional charges from a separate incident to include attempted murder.
Yeah, 7 counts of attempted murder in Hickory. He had a $100,000 bond. He was able to bond out for the amount of $10,000 that he gave to a bonding agency. And he was not placed under electronic monitoring at that time. Yesterday, the only difference between that first one and the second one, an additional $100,000 bond for a total of $200,000, I should say. And then he was placed on electronic monitoring. Law enforcement says they're not happy. They wonder what happens with the rest of these suspects. They say as we arrest them and get them on the streets, but the legal system is allowing it to make it easy for them to get out. We're right here in Catawba County. Guys, we'll send it back to you.
Yeah, Richard, I want to ask about those other suspects because, as we mentioned, Keandre Mack and Tolan Huff still wanted as of this morning. What do we know about them and their whereabouts?
Yeah, police say they've been searching for them. They have information, and they actually are saying that one of those men is actually related also to the incident that also happened this April. So they're familiar with these people. They have evidence from surveillance video, from witness statements, and from just physical evidence they've collected at the scene. And they say that they want to catch those people and get them off the streets also, with the hopes that they'll stay behind bars.
All right, Richard Devane reporting live for us there in Catawba County. Richard, thank you.
7:05 now, and there is more breaking news overnight, this time in Northwest Charlotte. Medic confirming one person fighting for their life this morning after a shooting on Esther Lane. That's right near Freedom Drive. Now, we have reached out to CMPD to see if they have any suspects in custody.
Now to this breaking story. This is all unfolding outside Philadelphia. A newscopter there overlooking the scene gives you an idea of just how big of a fire this is. This happening at a transit authority bus yard maintenance facility, and it's sending just jet black smoke into the air. Despite the best efforts from firefighters, you can see a rain from the fire hose coming up, trying to put this thing out of control with little effort. This all happening at a railroad facility in the area of Nicetown. Again, this is at the transit authority there in southeastern Pennsylvania. Fire crews can be seen attempting to control the fire even as we speak. Again, these are live pictures there from the greater Philadelphia area. Now, to give you some context about where this is happening, a spokesperson for the transit authority says the facility is what they refer to as a bus graveyard. What that basically means is this is where they go put all out of service buses while they're not being used. So these are not buses that are currently in use there for the transit authority. No idea yet what caused the situation, but you can see it's spreading to multiple buses there and even some concerns about a nearby neighborhood. We're going to keep our eye on the situation. There's breaking news coming out of Philadelphia this morning right here on WCNC Plus.
All right, let's check back in with Chris now for details on our rainy forecast. At least a rainy start to this Thursday, Chris.
Oh, it sure is. And one quick stat about that plume, that black smoke, that's usually you only see it that black whenever fuel is mixed into the fire. So you have to also think anything left in the gas tanks in there just makes that a dangerous situation where it keeps on going from one to one. So that was incredible video, but just a terrible situation. For us, it's just a wet morning, nothing weather alert, just a damp one, really unmotivational. And you have high temperatures today reaching the mid 70s. Once you get to around 70 degrees, it is still going to feel a little bit more on the humid side. But once you get into the mid 70s and we see a little bit of sunshine by the end of the day, it's a good hope. Boy, you're going to be feeling that mugginess and that humidity. And highs only in the mid 70s, about 10 degrees off from where we should be. And we're really expecting rain now until about 3, but there will be some breaks here and there. So likely you're going to be on this threshold of our napometer. If you open up the curtains, you're like, oh man, I'm not ready for it today. At least sunshine always follows rain. Here's a look at our Doppler radar. We are seeing a break in 2 bands of rain here. Still been widespread, especially over here in Gaston County. Some of us picking up 1 to 2 inches of rain when all this is said and done. No big flooding issues or concerns. However, it's this band of rain that will likely be the heaviest that you see around Kings Mountain and Gastonia. So Gastonia, finally you're about to see things lighten up a little bit. You're still going to have periods of heavy rain. Don't get me wrong. It's just not going to be torrential as some of these bands have indicated. And then as you look down towards the south, I think the next heavier bands of rain will actually be east of I-77. This is really starting to expand. And then once it starts pushing its way this way, that's going to allow for its final exit. Our water vapor imagery also showing that a few of those cells are starting to grow. Whenever you see a big white plume, it's really showing that it's reaching its max rain rates that it can provide. Our rainfall totals so far close to an inch already around Gastonia, near a ½ inch in Charlotte, and then about ½ to ¾ of an inch close to Chester. That's where we've had some of the heaviest rain so far, but then some of our eastern zones will start to catch up as the morning progresses. Here's a look at our futurecast. Once you get to about 8 o'clock, an hour from now, I think that heavier band that I was showing you is close to about Lincolnton up to Statesville and Salisbury. Then that little lull that I was showing you will start to expand slightly, only slightly. This ribbon of rain will continue pushing its way to the north, but then eventually it's going to be yanked back. And the reason why, a low pressure system is going to start to push its way this way. So at that point, it's going to be, come on, rain, come on, let's go this way. And that's going to allow everything to push more east of I-77. So if you live west of I-77, your wettest period is pretty much now until about noon. If you live east of I-77, your wettest window, I think, is really about 10 till 4 o'clock. And then you can see why. Once you get to about 4, everything is pretty much well east of Charlotte. Still kind of has that damp feel to the day. But then by the very end of the afternoon, heading into the evening, I think we're actually seeing some sunshine. And you're going to be feeling that mugginess as all that moisture is trying to evaporate. One of those scenarios that if you look at the road, you can physically see it steaming or turning into condensation. Widespread rain today, isolated showers on Friday, but we're scattered to isolated on Saturday. And I need to note this day because we do have an outside chance for a line of severe storms to push our way into the Charlotte area. But right now our futurecast isn't really catching up with what the Storm Prediction Center is saying, so we're not going weather alert yet. I just want you to be weather aware in the back of your mind if you have any weekend plans, or telling you, hey, do it earlier on Saturday and then you don't have to worry about it, whatever you're doing outside. Our futurecast on Friday, once you get to about noon to 2 to 3 o'clock, we are seeing some indications that some showers and storms should start to bubble up. So this is the usual summertime pattern. It's much warmer tomorrow, still super humid. So the usual, hey, it's around 2 o'clock, let's maybe have a passing thunderstorm. These usually don't move very fast, exhaust themselves. So a quick ½ inch to an inch of rain could fall for some of us, but they're not super scattered, so not everyone's going to see them. And then through the overnight, we'll have a chance for maybe a passing shower merely north of I-40. Now heading into your Saturday, here's 5 p.m. I'm not seeing a lot of indications that storms start to bubble up here, but there's a good possibility late afternoon heading into the evening that we could see a line of storms, indicating right here heading into your Sunday morning. The timing's all over the place, but for day 3 of the Storm Prediction Center to already put us under a medium threat, that's going to catch our attention. But again, there's not a lot of things that are backing up that this for sure is going to happen. A lot of timing could change. Also, there's something called convective inhibition that pretty much just means, hey, it's not going to storm because we have a cap on the atmosphere. But whenever it's 90 degrees, it's hot and humid, it takes a while for that cap to break. So that's why we're still unsure exactly if this is even going to be a storm event. But just letting you know, it is a possibility. Once you get to your Sunday, a little bit cooler, temperatures in the mid 80s, back to the upper 80s on Monday. And then Tuesday, 80 degrees. Yep. Back to another cool down as more widespread rain starts to roll in by the middle of next week. Back to the usual pattern. It's humid, mid 80s with a chance for an afternoon and evening thunderstorm. These wet mornings are never great for traffic. I know, Majestic. How's it going?
It is a busy morning, that's for sure. It is very wet out there. We're starting to see some ponding as well. So if you do have some place to be this morning, simply put, just take it easy out there. I want to show you some of our live cameras here. Here's I-77 from York County. You can tell how wet it is. Thankfully, most of the cars are going quite slow. A little bit of a combination of traffic and also just some ongoing accidents. Here's our road weather map, so you can see all the green indicating those wet roads, but you see that blue, that's where we're already seeing some ponding where we've had heavy downpours out towards Gaston County. Let's break down a few things you'll want to know before you do head out the door. We're still seeing this back up here. It's on I-485. Southbound lanes. There's a crash just after exit 9. That's out towards Wilkinson Boulevard. You can see all of that red just to the west. Want to give you a peek of what's going on as we're looking at I-85. We have lots of congestion, no accidents there, just a lot of people heading towards heading inbound. And then Mount Holly, we've been following this all morning long. There is a road that is closed because of a crash. It's Hawthorne Street between Hawthorne and Catawba Ave. So if you're heading south to north, you're going to want to take Catawba to Main up towards Highway 27. If you're coming in from the opposite direction, of course, 27 to Main and then down to Catawba. Over towards the east, this was a big story yesterday, that sinkhole on West Moorhead Street. The road right now, it's still closed, but they're expected to actually go out there and make some temporary repairs. Today, it'll be open over through the weekend and then closed again on Monday to make some permanent repairs. So if you typically drive that way, today I suggest you take Camp Green Street or even Berry Hill Road.
Developing this morning, CMPD says it now has made an arrest in a deadly hit and run from last month. Police tell us 25-year-old Tyjon Carney faces a number of charges in the death of 18-year-old Aleki Langi. Investigators say Carney hit Langi and another missionary as they were riding bikes on Beatty'sford Road back on May 1st. We're told Carney left the scene. He was taken into custody on Monday.
7:14 now. This morning, a child fighting for her life after being seriously hurt in a drive-by shooting. It happened in Pageland, that's in South Carolina. Investigators say 7-year-old Skylar Baker was sleeping in her bed when shots were fired into her home Sunday morning. As police continue their search for the person who pulled the trigger, city leaders, neighbors, and friends came together dressed in pink, sending prayers and being there for the family during this dark time.
I know God can heal. I know God can deliver.
That's a child. And I got kids of my own, so I know how I would feel if that was my child.
This means so much to us. I've held it together until today when I stepped out the car and I seen everybody here.
Skylar's family says she still remains in critical condition, and they're asking that anyone who can help find the person responsible to come forward. With gun violence continuing to rise in the community, local mental health experts are stressing more than ever the importance of maintaining a healthy headspace. WCNC Charlotte's Bria Smith sat down with them to discuss how to process your thoughts and feelings relating to recent tragedies.
38% of those gun deaths where a firearm is used, it's only 38% that are homicides.
But mental health advocate Fonda Bryant says there's an even larger, jaw-dropping statistic.
In 2023, 58% of gun deaths in this country were suicides. 3 out of 5 gun deaths in this country are suicides.
Clinical mental health counselor Jackie Greco and Bryant agree both acts of gun violence can be avoided by asking questions like,
hey, let me help you get help. We can get through this. You can get better. Listen without judgment. It can make all the difference.
Greco says she understands how news like recent shootings can impact your mental health.
When that's in your own backyard, it becomes that much more real.
She says that's why it's okay to acknowledge the reality of your environment playing a factor in your day-to-day mental struggles.
I think first it's important to acknowledge that there is a lot happening, and that a lot of what's happening includes things like suffering and discomfort and hard truths or things that we wish were different. And it's okay to acknowledge that.
So whether you feel the effects of witnessing gun-related violence or a shooting, or have had thoughts of self-inflicting, there are ways to deal with it.
I think, a big part about therapy and counseling that helps people is helping them understand or reiterating that two truths can exist. So there can be pain and suffering that's happening in the world, and there can also be really good things that are happening too.
Anybody can call. You can text one word, help, to 741-741. That is a national crisis text number.
The first Friday in June is observed as National Gun Violence Awareness Day, and organization leaders encourage you to wear orange to honor those who have lost their lives. And if you're someone struggling to maintain a healthy and clear headspace, helpful resources can be found on our WCNC app. In Charlotte, Bria Smith, WCNC Charlotte.
7:17 right now on WCNC Plus, and right now a former Lenore Daycare Center employee is preparing to go back to court today in connection to the death of a child. 29-year-old Alexander Coffey is charged with involuntary manslaughter after a 16-month-old was found unresponsive at the Creative Beginnings Daycare back on May 19th. Documents show the facility has since been ordered to close, and its license is now suspended.
This morning, a small business in Lenore is picking up the pieces after a propane tank explosion at its grocery store and restaurant. Right now, Taqueria El Tio Rico is closed as the owners try to figure out their next steps. They were there when a propane tank exploded Tuesday. Thankfully, no one was hurt. The owners say their hope is to reopen and serve the Lenore community again. Right now, though, they're not sure when that will happen.
Today, Charlotte's Animal Shelter will reassess its kennel situation after a major emergency intake of dogs. CMPD Animal Care and Control says a police investigation led to the discovery of more than 50 dogs at a home. All those dogs had to be taken in for care even though the shelter was already at max capacity. These are some of the new images of the dogs. We're told they're mostly puppies and adult females. The Byram Drive shelter opens at 11 this morning. The Toomey Avenue location opens at 9. We have more information on how you can help inside the WCNC Charlotte mobile app.
7:18 now. Seniors and parents of CMS, listen up. District officials recently announced some venue changes for some high school graduations. Graduations for South Mecklenburg, Palisades High, Mallard Creek, and Garinger High were originally scheduled at Bojangles Coliseum on Friday, June 13th. However, due to what officials say was a scheduling conflict, those ceremonies will now be held at PNC Music Pavilion. The time will remain the same, and graduation rehearsals will also be held at PNC on June 12th. Officials will send out additional details early next week.
It is a wet and damp morning, and another thing to mention, that mugginess is now going to reach its high for the season, especially on Saturday, and we're pretty much already there. So this might be your face. Oh no, it's back. And there's even some sad faces that pop up in this map. It's at that point that you start getting to that really humid air, especially to the southeast. So I think the most humid part of our area is really for you, Wadesboro, Rockingham, Chirra. All of us will be under the sad face emoji by the time you get to this Saturday Saturday, because that's the only day that absolutely will have the muggiest feel. So that is our humid day, the most humid that I think we have seen so far this season on tap. Our skeeter meter is also affected by this. By tomorrow, it's a little bit more humid than today. Also, the rain is kicking them down. So mosquitoes love temperatures over 80 degrees. We don't have that. So that's why today is only a high instead of a yuck status. But the biggest factor that really controls if a mosquito is going to thrive, survive, is actually moisture. Because the more humid it is, it actually is more buoyancy. And that allows for a lighter atmosphere, allows them to travel easier. It's the dry air that they are kind of on the struggle bus. But the more humid it is, actually the easier they can get to you. So that's why we're usually driving this on temperature and moisture content. Here's the current scenario that we have. We have a low pressure system that's taking its time, pushing its way further off towards the north and east. It eventually is going to be right off the Carolina coast by tomorrow morning, and then we'll have on and off storm and shower chances as our next wet weather system is going to approach. Right now, it's still a big question mark. I think what we're going to see on Saturday, I think one of two scenarios, either one, you have it late afternoon heading into the evening, or two, it's more of an overnight event for our chance for a strong thunderstorm. Regardless, it's going to be 90 degrees or near 90 degrees. The warmest high that we've had so far in Charlotte is 88. Well, I have 90 tomorrow, 90 on Saturday. Saturday just has a better chance for showers and storms. However, Friday still could have a flourishing activity. I showed you this earlier in our WCNC Plus stream. The widespread rain today, isolated tomorrow, but then a little bit more scattered on Saturday. Still a lot of question marks there. All right, so let's go through a version of your futurecast once again. Here's 10 o'clock. At this point, I think we're starting to see the shift of this storm. Instead of moving off towards the north, this rain band is starting to push its way to the east. Once that happens, some dry air is going to start to work in. So by the hour of noon, lunchtime, we're still going to have some pockets of heavy rain. It's just not as widespread as what we're dealing with right now. So I think we're going to see a lot more lulls. By about 3 to 5, that's where most of our clearing is going to happen. So most likely, if you live west of I-77, most rain will be done by about 3 o'clock. If you live off towards the east, you might have to wait as long as 6 o'clock. Charlotte specifically, really 3, 4 o'clock is kind of the consensus I'm seeing here. And then even by about 6 o'clock, you might see some sunshine. So a brighter end of the day, sunshine always follows rain scenario starting to set up. But here's the big question mark that I've been talking about, your severe weather risk. This right here is not just for Saturday, but also Saturday night. The timing's all over the place. We can't really tell where things are going to be, but regardless, a strong thunderstorm system is going to push into the area. We just don't know when. If it's the overnight, it's going to be a whole lot less severe. We'll keep you updated here on WCNC Plus as that starts to evolve. In the meantime, let's head over to a Majestic Storm to see how things are going on this wet and just not great morning commute.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Heading out the door for your Thursday. Really, the biggest player is going to be the weather this morning. All of that rain making for a tricky morning commute, so just take it easy. Want to start with this live look outside. This is I-77 here coming in from York County. You can see there are a lot of people out on those roads, and those roads are just wet. We're not just seeing wet conditions, but also starting to see some ponding where some of that rain has been coming down a bit more intensely. You can see it here on our maps. All of this green here is indicating where the road is just wet, which is basically all of our area, especially along I-77 and west of it. Where it's blue, that's where we do have that ponding, especially through Gaston County. Just had some heavy downpours. Now, if you typically take I-485 southbound, there's a crash there at exit 9, Wilkinson Boulevard. All of that red just indicating that big backup. Want to show you what's going on I-85. Yes, inbound lanes are backed up. Lots of red, no accidents, just people hitting those roads and hopefully taking it easy with the weather outside. Then we do have a blocked road. It's in Mount Holly on Hawthorne Street, both ways being impacted. So if you're coming in from the south, you're going to want to take West Catawba Ave through Main and then up towards Highway 27. If you're coming in from the north heading to the south, you'll just want to do the opposite of that. Want to also give you an update on that sinkhole that we were closely following yesterday on West Moorhead Street. It's still closed, but they're expected to temporarily reopen it today and through the weekend, and then close it again on Monday for those final repairs. So again, closed now. You're going to want to take Camp Green Street or even Berry Hill Road for the time being.
All right, let's get back to that breaking news we told you about just a few minutes ago right here on WCNC Plus. It's this breaking situation you're seeing unfolding in Philadelphia, where a bus yard there has somehow caught fire. This is at a transit authority there in the area of Nicetown near Philadelphia. This is also the transit authority for the southeastern part of Pennsylvania, serving millions of people there. At this point, we're not sure exactly what started, but you can see firefighters there trying to get this from every angle possible. You can see the streams of water trying to get this thing out. At this point, it looks like multiple buses now on fire.
Oh, go
I
ahead.
was going to say quite a while before they get this under control. I mean, just look at the massive flames and the huge plume of smoke.
Yeah, and well, the problem is you have these vehicles here, and now they said this is pretty much a bus graveyard.
Right.
So I'm guessing a lot of the fuel was drained, but you still have remnants of the fuel. And the reason why you're seeing such a thick black smoke here is whenever it's this black, like at one point it was black as night, it's either rubber burns and creates that type of smoke. Yeah. Also, when you're not getting enough oxygen into a combustion cycle, it usually burns a little bit of a blacker because no light is able to get into it.
Okay.
So petroleum is going to burn like that. So you're really looking at, it's the rubber, probably the tires, the petroleum that's left over from that, and just things within the engine that are just creating an ongoing, really nonstop fuel for these, where it's just jumping from bus to bus in this scenario.
So the thing that's making it, fuel that black smoke, also probably good news as far as human casualties, because it being a bus graveyard, likely not many people there at the time. You do have some worries with flames this intense that it could spread to nearby neighborhoods.
For sure, and it's so interesting that this has been such an issue with the whole septic system and trying to get more tax dollars put to that. So this is just another problem for them. Of course, we're going to continue to stay on this breaking news that's developing here in Pennsylvania. We'll have more to come here on WCNC Plus.
Well, good morning, everybody. We still have some very heavy rain now starting to push north of Gastonia and out of Kings Mountain. So that means Lincolnton, you're really going to see a big uptick in that rain. We're also starting to see more heavier rain take over some of our eastern zones. Monroe, I would say over the next 30 minutes, you're really going to see a big change in how heavy the rain is. Wadesboro, you're already starting to see it. So what can you expect for the rest of the day? Well, I think that rain is really going to take a big step back once you get to the afternoon. It's just all about getting there. You see that rain still moving very slow in the near term. From about noon to 3, that's where you have some dry air that starts to eliminate this. And then by the late afternoon, we actually should see a decent amount of sunshine heading into the evening. It's just going to be a very patient game trying to get there, not really motivational in the meantime. A big shift in temperatures after today. Rain cooled air keeping us in the 70s today. 90 degrees on Friday and Saturday. Better chance for storms late on Saturday. Majestic?
All right, good Thursday morning, everyone. Before you head out the door, just know those area roadways are so wet. We're actually starting to see some ponding as well, and there has been multiple accidents this morning. There's a live look outside York County. Good morning to you. You need to be mindful that we do have those ongoing accidents. We're following them all this morning on WCNC Plus. One I want to let you know about, though, it's on I-485 southbound. There's a crash there, and it's really backing things up out towards Berry Hill.
Streaming live right now at 7:30 on WCNC Plus. I'm Ben Thompson.
I'm Lisa Washington.
Happening today, parents and staff expected to show up at tonight's CMS board meeting to continue to demand answers and transparency. That's because Audrey Kell principal Jamie Brooks suddenly retired just last week, shocking a lot of folks in that school community.
WCNC Charlotte's Destiny Richards is in the studio with us this morning. Now, Destiny, this all comes just days after several teachers called out of school on Monday in protest.
Yeah, that's right. And now they're expected to bring those concerns directly to the CMS board tonight. According to the meeting agenda, several people are among the first signed up to speak during public comment about the situation at Audrey Kell, including at least one faculty member. The lack of transparency surrounding the abrupt retirement of Principal Brooks has deeply divided the school's community. She had led Audrey Kell since 2008, but was quietly suspended with pay on May 2nd. The district didn't inform families until a public records request brought it to light weeks later. Then came a brief retirement message, still with no explanation. On Monday, frustration reached a boiling point with several teachers calling out sick in protest, wearing purple and lining Audrey Kell Road with signs reading, "Bring back Brooks." Parents are also demanding answers.
We still not hear from CMS about what is going on. We need partnership from the CMS board and the superintendent.
Tonight's meeting is at 6 p.m. and anyone else who wants to speak during public comment has until noon today to sign up. Dozens are expected to show up not just to speak about the principal's exit, but what they say is a broader issue with how CMS communicates big decisions. Lisa.
Now, Destiny, CMS responded to the concerns about the principal's suspension and the retirement. Have they said anything about, because initially she was suspended and then we learned that she's retired. Have they said anything?
Yeah, they have not. So far, CMS has remained mostly silent on the specifics behind Principal Brooks' suspension and sudden retirement. The district did notify Audrey Kell families that Brooks would be retiring on June 1st, but they have not explained the reasons for her suspension back in early May. And despite repeated requests for comment from us, CMS has not provided any details or a timeline for resolving the situation. And this lack of communication is exactly what's fueling frustration among parents, teachers, and staff who say they deserve clear answers. That's why many are turning to tonight's board meeting as their opportunity to demand transparency directly from district leaders.
And often when it is a personal issue, they will not be able to comment. All right, thanks so much for that, Destiny. Let's check back in with Chris now to find out more about the rain on this Thursday.
Yeah, pretty much a near washout for a lot of us, and it will get a little bit better by the back end of the afternoon, but most of the morning it's going to be wet, especially between I-85 and I-40. I think it's this area that we're seeing the most rain, but realistically, there's more rain coverage than bald spots here on our radar, and let's take a closer look at all the above. Do see a little lull here and likely still having some fog and some mist drizzle and wherever you're seeing the gray here on the map, but there's two areas of the heaviest rain. Number one, areas that haven't seen as much rain so far this morning, Wadesboro, Anson County, you're going to see a big uptick in that rain compared to the last few hours. Already seeing rain rates up to about a ½ inch per hour. Same thing goes for Union County and over to Richmond County as well. And the heaviest rain that I've really seen has been along 321 for the most part. That was moving up through Chester, York, and now it has been Gaston County that has been under it the most. Now it's moving into Lincoln County. So Lincolnton, you're expecting rain rates anywhere from about a quarter to a ½ inch per hour. By the way, that means pretty much almost a maxed out for our windshield wipers, where they're going to be super busy, but they should be able to keep up. It's not absolutely torrential. Here's a look at our water vapor imagery. And the reason why I'm showing you this, areas in the blue to the white, that represents a good moisture plume where we're seeing a lot of that rain that's coming down. However, the yellow represents some relatively drier air. So as this system pushes its way to the east, that drier air will start to work in. So we'll see less and less rain the further that we get from that moisture source through the afternoon. But we have to get there first. That's why I think the morning is the wettest. That dry air could affect some bands of rain down towards the south, but check out 11 o'clock. Still widespread rain at this point. It's really not until about 2 to 4 that we see a significant drop off in the rain coverage. Still a chance that we have rain around Charlotte by 3. By 5 o'clock, I think we're completely clear, and we're actually seeing a nice little dose of sunshine to complete the afternoon heading into the evening. It just might be a patient process trying to get there. Areas the further east, such as Albemarle, Wadesboro, and Rockingham, it might be at the buzzer that you really start to see a clearer sky as that sun is setting. The second round of rain behind this is going to take its time, and it's not going to be as vast and widespread. So look at downtown Monroe. You've only just begun to rain. More rain is on the way for you. You can really expect that uptick over the next 20 minutes. Here in Dallas, we've literally had our head in the clouds. This nimbostratus cloud is just creating that widespread rain. As far as the visibilities go, down to a mile in Charlotte, it's not always fog that is going to cause lower visibilities. However, in this case, it's a mix of two. You have the light to moderate rain and a little bit of fog that's lowering those visibilities. Current temperatures right now, we're in the upper 60s to 68 degrees around Concord, and then high temperatures today reaching the mid 70s. But realistically, we're rocking either side of 70 most of the day. It's not until we finally clear out the rain that we'll have a quick little jump back to about the mid 70s. Over the next 24 hours, the process of how we're clearing is we're saying goodbye to this low pressure system. That's going to move its way off towards the north and east. A weak little area of high pressure is going to allow for some sunshine by tomorrow. But one thing won't change: how we feel. By the way, by the end of the afternoon, once the rain clears, that's when you're really going to be feeling the steaminess, that mugginess to the air. And Saturday will absolutely be muggy. That's the highest dew points I'm seeing, aka the most moisture in the air. So I think Saturday will be our most uncomfortable day of the year because temperatures are also near 90 degrees. So lucky us, right? So here's a look at that atmospheric moisture. We have a lot that's going around the area. That's one of the big stories here. But then that atmospheric moisture combined with a front will allow for a better chance for thunderstorms, I think, on Saturday. Isolated storms could still be strong to severe for your Friday, but whenever you're this hot and this humid, anything can go. I think Friday you will have a chance for a pop-up shower or thunderstorm. It's kind of like just like the middle of the summertime. Out of nowhere, a storm can creep in and can turn over to be a severe thunderstorm. So I think we have that scenario later in the afternoon Friday. Better chance really heading into your Saturday evening as a front starts to roll in. And then after that, temperatures are all over the place. We have the upper 80s on Monday. Monday right now trending to be the pick of next week, still staying humid. And then we have 80 degrees, more widespread rain on Tuesday, back to the mid 80s. It looks like mid to late week next week. But in the meantime, have the umbrella, windshield wipers certainly busy for a Majestic's report.
Exactly. They're going so fast out there, and you need to just take it slow because we have seen a lot of accidents this morning. I want to start with just a live look of I-77. You can tell those area roadways are very wet. We don't just have wet roads, but for some locations, you may encounter some ponding. So seriously, just slow it on down this morning. Let's show you a few of the accidents that I'm carefully following for you. Want to let you know if you are getting ready to head out the door, you can see it is a busy one out there. This is a new one that just popped up. It's on I-85 and northbound lanes being impacted. It's at exit 43. That's University City Boulevard. You can see lots of red there. Just to the south, we've been following this one here on I-45 out near Berry Hill. Southbound lanes all in the red. That's out towards Wilkinson Boulevard where we're seeing that ongoing accident. Mount Holly, good morning to you. If you typically take Hawthorne Street, well, it's closed right now between Hawthorne and Catawba. It's blocked off because of an earlier morning crash. So if you typically take that street, if you're coming in from the south, you're going to want to take Catawba to Maine out towards Highway 27. Want to show you this ongoing problem. It was a sinkhole yesterday that I was talking about, and we have an update on it. This is still closed. It's West Moorhead Street. So if you typically drive that, don't take it today. They'll make repairs on it today, and it will be open over the weekend and then close down again on Monday to make permanent repairs. So instead today, I need you to take Camp Green Street or Berry Hill Road if you are heading in that direction. Again, take it easy. It is a soaking mess out there for your Thursday morning commute.
Thanks, Majestic. 7:39 now, taking a live look over the U.S. Capitol this morning as reaction continues to pour in following President Trump's announcement of a new travel ban. People from 12 countries are now banned from coming to the United States. NBC's Chris Pallone is following the latest for us in Washington this morning.
The White House says a sweeping new travel ban will go into effect Monday on foreign nationals from a dozen countries, primarily in Africa and the Middle East. In a video posted to X, President Trump said people entering the U.S. from those countries are not properly vetted.
We don't want them.
The president cited national security threats for the ban, including this week's terror attack in Colorado, though Egypt, the home country of the suspect in that attack, is not on the list.
We cannot have open migration from any country where we cannot safely and reliably vet and screen those who seek to enter the United States.
Democrats call this latest Trump travel ban a distraction.
You distract people by making them think that they're at war with other Americans, making them think that they have something to fear from people who look different from them or speak a different language.
It comes as one of the president's top allies ratchets up attacks on Mr. Trump's signature spending and tax cut bill, now winding through Congress. Billionaire Elon Musk writing, "Call your senators, call your congressmen, kill the bill."
I don't think very many senators are that interested in what Elon has to say about it.
Musk complains the bill will increase the budget deficit. It extends the president's 2017 tax cut, spends billions on border security, and includes cuts to Medicaid and food assistance programs. Nonpartisan budget experts warn it would add $2.5 trillion to the nation's debt. Republicans now trying to discredit those projections.
You can't go back to the drawing board, and we shouldn't. We have a great product to deliver here.
Republican leaders in Congress say they want the bill on the president's desk by the 4th of July. President Trump has not publicly responded to Elon Musk's criticism just yet, but that could change later today when the president hosts the Chancellor of Germany at the White House. The president has not met with reporters since Friday. In Washington, Chris Pallone, NBC News.
New this morning, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce says ongoing tariffs could cost the average American household an extra $4,000 per year. From grills and utensils to sunscreen and swimming pools, experts say many of our summer staples are made outside of the U.S. Those products, along with fireworks, beach toys, and towels, could see prices increase by 30%. Meanwhile, bikes and sandals expected to cost 60% more. Experts say now is a good time to take stock of what you already have and try using secondhand shopping if you can.
Looking ahead to next week, President Trump expected to make a trip to Fort Bragg. WRAL-TV reports the president will be in Fayetteville Tuesday. However, it's not clear yet if that visit's going to be open to the general public. We'll be sure to keep you updated as we learn more in the coming days. In South Carolina, Governor McMaster says he plans to veto just 11 line items in the state's $14.7 billion budget. The spending plan includes transportation improvements, teacher pay raises, and enough extra funding to put a resource officer in every single school in the state.
This budget provides enough money for every school to have one. And ladies and gentlemen, that makes a big difference, not only for the safety of the children and the teachers and all of those at the school, but also the confidence and comfort of the parents to know that's one more thing they do not have to worry about.
The governor attributed the low veto count this year to the removal of earmarks, which are one-time local projects he has long championed be removed. They're often called pork. If no lawmakers choose to override the governor's vetoes, the budget takes effect next month. 7:43 right now here on WCNC Plus. This morning, we'll make sure you're asking where's the money, just so you know your 401k isn't one of the 29 million that are sitting untouched, lost, or forgotten.
Reports show that Americans have $1.7 trillion sitting in unused 401k accounts. That's about $56,000 per account. Now, the reason this is so common is because some people just forget to consolidate or roll over their money when they change jobs. To find out if you have an untouched account, visit the National Registry of Unclaimed Retirement Benefits. You type in your Social Security number. So some good news, you may have some extra cash in your name.
And some more good news on the financial front. Fidelity says the average 401k plan savings rate recently notched a record high in the first quarter of this year. The savings rate, including milestone employee and company contributions, jumped 14.3%. That's the closest it's ever been to Fidelity's recommended 15% savings target. Turning now to Consumer Alert. Just how safe is the chicken or turkey in your fridge this morning? Salmonella, a top cause of food poisoning, but the Department of Agriculture recently backed off a plan to tighten safety rules for raw poultry.
So what does this mean for your family, and how can you help avoid food poisoning right at home? Here is Ron Jones with some tips.
Each year, more than 1.3 million Americans get sick from salmonella, and chicken and turkey are often to blame. And the problem isn't going away. Brian Ronholm, Food Policy Director at Consumer Reports, says that's exactly why stronger regulations are needed now more than ever.
So when infections keep rising year after year, it's very clear that the current system isn't equipped to handle this issue adequately.
In 2022, Consumer Reports found salmonella in nearly 1/3 of the ground chicken tested and in some turkey samples too. The results pointed to serious gaps in federal food safety oversight. To address ongoing concerns, last year the USDA proposed a rule aimed at making poultry safer. It would have classified some salmonella-contaminated poultry as adulterated, which would have forced recalls and kept unsafe products off store shelves. But now the agency is backing down.
So unfortunately, what this means is the burden shifts to the consumer. The consumer is the one that has to figure out how best to protect their family from foodborne illness. And that's unfair when you consider everything that a consumer has to deal with on a daily basis.
With that in mind, there are ways you can lower your risk of salmonella right now. At the market, keep raw meat in a disposable bag and separate it from ready-to-eat foods. At home, thaw meat in the refrigerator, not on the counter, and place it on a plate or in a bowl to catch any drips. In the kitchen, avoid cross-contamination. Don't rinse raw poultry. Wash your hands and utensils with hot soapy water and use separate cutting boards for meat and produce. And most importantly, always cook chicken and turkey to 165 degrees Fahrenheit. The meat thermometer is the only way to be sure. You can buy a Consumer Reports top-rated digital meat thermometer for under $20. Simple steps that can make a big difference in keeping your family safe.
Ron Jones reporting for us there. This week, we told you about a serious tomato recall linked to a deadly salmonella risk. You can find details on our website, WCNC.com. And a reminder, salmonella, especially dangerous for kids and older adults and those with weakened immune systems. With fewer protections in place, being careful at home is really one of the best ways to keep your family safe.
Meanwhile, packages of organic ground beef sold at Whole Foods stores across the country and here in the Carolinas could also be contaminated with E. coli. Federal safety officials issued a public health alert for Organic Rancher organic ground beef. There haven't been any illnesses linked to that product so far. Officials urge you to throw it away if you have it. The products have the establishment number 40-27 that's inside the USDA mark of inspection. If you are looking to swim at Ebenezer Park and take advantage of these warmer temperatures, you're going to have to wait a bit longer. A routine water test found elevated levels of E. coli in that area of the lake. Officials at the Rock Hill Park say its swimming area will be closed until further notice as they wait for additional testing.
Right now, emergency crews are working to contain an oil spill in Baltimore's Inner Harbor. Take a look. Maryland leaders say about 2,000 gallons of diesel fuel overflowed from 2 tanks at Johns Hopkins. The tanks power backup generators at patient care sites in East Baltimore. Johns Hopkins says they quickly told state officials and are now helping with that cleanup.
Heads up if you have summer plans for the Caribbean. A record amount of sargassum seaweed piled up on beaches in May, and according to a new report, more is expected this month. The brown prickly algae is smothering shorelines in some popular vacation destinations. Now it's showing up in larger clumps in Florida. Experts say it's disrupting summer tourism, killing wildlife, and even releasing toxic gases. The 38 million metric tons is the largest quantity of algae seen across the region since scientists began studying the sargassum belt in 2013. The amount seems to be growing each year. Scientists say they still aren't sure why.
7:48 right now on WCNC Plus. Folks in the Midwest waking up after a second night of severe weather. Take a look. This funnel cloud you see here behind me. I mean, it's a perfect shape you see right there, captured on cameras in one town in Illinois. It comes after a deadly tornado just a few weeks ago devastated parts of St. Louis. After sirens there were not activated. Many now hoping to rebuild before more severe weather hits. NBC's Shaquille Brewster now with more.
Another round of severe weather and at least one funnel cloud captured on camera threatening the Midwest.
A new tornado warning just issued.
Flash flood warnings and tornado sirens blaring in and around St. Louis. Grocery shoppers sheltering in place and trees toppled over. Less than 3 weeks after an EF3 tornado ripped through the city.
We're in the tornado! Oh!
Killing 5 people after the sirens weren't activated. St. Louis police warning structures damaged in that storm are not safe to seek shelter in. The new threat coming after a deadly night of storms further south. Dallas fire teams say a rescue boat flipped, throwing first responders into fast-moving waters as they tried to save a driver overnight.
Thankfully, even though they got swept downstream, they were able to make it to safe refuge.
After waiting for the water levels to recede, those responders found one man dead inside a vehicle. The flooding was part of a system that brought torrential downpours and 2 tornadoes to the Kansas City area. The National Weather Service assessing the trail of fallen trees in towns like Independence, Missouri.
I can say with confidence that we have at least one tornado path, damage path here through Independence.
How serious of a tornado?
It's at least a low NDF1.
This new video shows the funnel cloud approaching an engineering building that a tree hit as J.C. Mason was working inside.
It was crazy. When we heard that crash, it was big. It shook the building a little bit.
And hazy skies from Wisconsin and Michigan to New York City as smoke from more than 100 out-of-control Canadian wildfires billows into the U.S., resulting in a code red air quality alert for swaths of the northern Midwest.
Well, just kind of makes us seem like a mess, right? You have tornadoes, fires burning.
The Saharan desert, the air, the dust.
The dust. And that's the least of our issues, right? Yeah, so these things happen frequently, but then when you put them all into one story, it just shows what's been happening. Now, it's severe weather season, but that could also mean extreme drought and extreme fires. But I want to get right to the smoke forecast. At one point, and especially over the weekend, we were seeing red suns across Raleigh just because the amount of smoke that was in the atmosphere. We didn't really see that here in Charlotte, but I'm happy to say that a lot of that smoke is finally starting to dissolve itself, get out of our atmosphere, but more could be coming a little bit later on the week if they don't get those fires under control. Still seeing a decent plume right here around the Midwest over to Ohio, but not so much here in the Charlotte area. We just have a very light bit of smoke, and oftentimes when you have a wet atmosphere like what we're having, it can start to erode a lot of that. And some of the smoke can also act as a condensation nuclei, and I'm always terrible at saying that word, nuclei, that is going to be just also an uptick feeding into some of that rain as well. But then also we have dust that is starting to erode it. So we have a bunch of atmospheric phenomenons all in one. Our air quality alerts are all around Lake Michigan because of that smoke, so unhealthy for sensitive groups. Meanwhile, close to home, we're back to green, no longer at that yellow because no longer are we dealing with the smoke, and dust really not an issue. But then areas north still have a lot of those orange dots. But at one point, it was straight unhealthy for everyone. So there's improvements wherever you look. Now let's talk about the dust. This dust layer that we're talking about, this happens each and every year, especially during June and July. What happens is dust gets picked up from the Sahara Desert and it travels across the trade winds. And the more it holds together, where you don't have rain to really dilute it, it will hold together and sometimes work its way into the eastern part of the United States. That's exactly what happened, and actually weaken that system that's dumping rain right now. So good for us. Also, how it feels, we have a tropical system, that was a tropical disturbance technically, bringing tropical air. So it feels humid today, humid tomorrow, and then muggy by Saturday. So Saturday right now, I'm looking at some of my highest totals as far as the amount of moisture in the atmosphere. So always nice to embrace the superlatives, but maybe not always. I want to talk a little bit more about a severe weather potential. So that national story that we were just mentioning was talking about the tornadoes that have happened across Missouri. Now I think the best chance for tornadoes today is really eastern New Mexico up into Kansas, Oklahoma, and the different parts of Texas as well. So the northern part of Texas, northwest of Dallas, that spreads all the way into the Cincinnati area. But we do have a slight chance for a strong thunderstorm in Charlotte tomorrow. Better chance for stronger thunderstorms late Saturday into Saturday night. I'll have more on that over the next half hour of WCNC Plus. But first, let's get to our wet morning commute with Majestic. Ugh.
All right, well, we do have a lot going on this morning. We're going to start with this. You can see a live look outside. It is just very, very wet out there. As we switch it over to our live traffic maps, all of the green is indicating where the roads are wet, and then you can see where we have areas shaded in blue. That's where you're going to see some ponding. So we're definitely seeing both of the two. Want to zoom into a couple of watch spots that I'm really keeping a close eye on. This one here is going to impact you if you travel on I-85 northbound. There's a crash there, lots of red. It's at exit exit 43 at University City Boulevard. So lots of people typically heading that way, and they are being slowed down. This one's still ongoing. I-485, the outer lanes of that southbound. You can see there's a crash at exit 9 at Wilkinson Boulevard. And again, Mount Holly, if you typically take Hawthorne Street, it's still blocked in both directions because of a crash earlier this morning. So if you typically take Hawthorne today, don't take that. Instead, take Catawba Ave, go through Main, and then eventually up towards Highway 27. Again, that sinkhole that we reported on yesterday is still there. They're expected to make some temporary repairs today, and then they're going to close it back down on Monday. So it will be open over the weekend to make permanent changes and repairs there. So until then, take Camp Green Street. That'll be your best option for your morning commute.
All right, Majestic, thanks so much. Well, we are going to take a quick break, but make sure you keep it right here on WCNC Plus. We'll have another update on weather and traffic. You can see the rain out there. Be careful if you're heading out today. And then we'll be back with today's top headlines starting at 8.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's not a great morning. Widespread rain across the area. I think some of the heaviest rain rates that some of you have seen so far are working our way in right now. It's really now until about noon that I think we're going to have the heaviest rain. Hour by hour, you can see that those rain rates are going to come down, and also the chance for rain after 3 o'clock. By the end of the day, we should see some sunshine. Some of us might not see the sunshine or have some breaks in the clouds until closer to sunset right after 8 o'clock. Temperatures getting into the mid-70s at that point before cooling down in the 60s overnight tonight. 90 degrees tomorrow, slight chance for an isolated storm, and then we do it again, 90 on Saturday with a better chance for storm during the evening hours. Majestic, it's a crazy morning.
It is. The rain is not helping for our morning commute, that's for sure. We have a lot of the rain where you're seeing this blue here. That's what we're actually seeing, some ponding. I'm noticing a lot of accidents this morning. It has been quite busy here. So if you are heading out the door, want to let you know about a couple that'll be very impactful. You can see I-85 northbound at exit 43. That's University City Boulevard. That's where we have all red right now. And then another one out towards Gastonia. Right lane is blocked due to a crash on I-85 southbound. That's right after exit 19. So allow for extra drive time and take it easy.
Live right now on WCNC Plus at 8 a.m. I'm Ben Thompson.
And I'm Lisa Washington. We began this morning with a breaking news update. The Catawba County Sheriff's Office says it has arrested 2 more suspects in that mass shooting at a pool party that left 1 person dead and 11 others hurt. Deputies telling us the first 2 men you see on the left side of your screen, Raekwon Craig and Patrick Tolbert, are now in custody. They're charged with aiding and abetting. Meanwhile, the Sheriff's Office tells us Keandre Mack and Tolan Huff are still wanted this morning.
And the last man there on your right, 20-year-old Garen Killian, made his first court appearance where a judge gave him a $200,000 bond and placed him on electronic monitoring. WCNC Charlotte's Richard Devane now live this morning outside the Catawba County Courthouse. And Richard, a lot of people balking at that, saying it's not nearly enough for somebody facing these sorts of accusations.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, Ben. Good morning to you. Good Thursday morning, everyone. A lot of folks were doing more than scratching their heads yesterday when they heard that bond amount of only, well, $200,000, but you can bond out on 10% and in some cases 7% of that total, meaning he could actually get out of jail for $20,000, and that had law enforcement upset and, of course, as you can well imagine, outrage. Now, as we look at video, this is what we're talking about. This all happened yesterday inside the Catawba County Courthouse. 20-year-old Garen Nathan Killian was formally charged with attempted first-degree murder, but only given a $200,000 bond amount. Now, as you mentioned, 2 other suspects, Keandre O'Neal Mack and Tolliver Huff Jr. are also wanted on similar charges, attempted first-degree murder. They're still on the loose. Authorities say they're all key players in that mass shooting that happened Sunday morning at that pool party in the Mountain View section of the county. That incident on Walnut Acres Drive left 1 person dead and 11 other folks injured. The Catawba County Sheriff's Office also announced the arrest of Raekwon Craig and Patrick Tolbert Wednesday on charges of aiding and abetting underage drinking. The ALE was investigating if people at that party were actually under the legal age of drinking, and that's why those folks were arrested. Investigators say they helped plan that party. Law enforcement upset that Killian, who was facing 7 counts of attempted murder for a previous shooting incident back in April, was once again given what they say was a low bond amount. Take a listen.
I am outraged. The first suspect we arrested in connection with this mass shooting was given a $200,000 bond.
It is beyond frustrating that someone with pending charges for multiple counts of attempted murder is out in the community in the first place. It is unimaginable that this same person can then be charged with additional charges from a separate incident to include attempted murder.
Yeah, he was charged with his bond was set at $100,000 in April for those 7 counts of attempted murder, and now he's been charged $200,000 for that 1 count of attempted murder. Police say that that's sending a bad message to those people who commit crimes, and most importantly to the community at large, as they talked about in the press conference, in the news conference yesterday, that it's important that people who do crimes do the time. We're right here in Catawba County. I'll send it back to you.
Yeah, I can send the wrong message. All right, zoom out for a second with me, Richard. And I know there's a lot we don't know, but you touched on this. What is the sort of prevailing wisdom of what happened and why it happened at this pool? Why were they there? What was their beef? What's the background story here that we don't know?
Yeah, we are hearing, Ben, and that's a good question. The word you said, beef. Law enforcement says that there are signs that this could be something that's gang related, that people who didn't like each other were involved. It was a group of people who they said the shooting started outside the pool party, shooting into the pool party, and people inside the pool party shooting back at them. So it seems to be some sort of situation where there were parties who didn't like each other. Well, pulling guns and shooting is more than dislike. So they're saying that there are gang ties. They're trying to figure out exactly. And of course, one of the things we have to say whenever we do these stories, especially about crimes and investigations that are ongoing, they give us some information, but they like to keep some things close to the vest because they don't want that information out in the community. They have their reasons for doing it, and we always respect law enforcement for that. But they did tell us that there are ties to gang affiliations and things of that nature. So that is something that they've been looking at. And of course, as they get more details, that they can release more details to us, of course, we'll give them to you.
Yeah, they have a much fuller idea of what they're investigating
Yes.
and the story than we do, given the limited information. All right, Richard Devane reporting live for us outside the county courthouse there. Richard, thank you.
There is more breaking news from overnight, this time in Northwest Charlotte. Medic confirming one person fighting for their life this morning after a shooting on Esther Lane. That's right near Freedom Drive. We have reached out to CMPD to see if they have any suspects in custody. All right, approaching 8:06 now. Let's check back in with Chris to find out more about this forecast, because I heard you say the rain is moving very slowly.
Very slowly. It's taking its sweet time. But the main source of the rain is now starting to pick up the pace. So that means these rain showers eventually are going to kick it into high gear once we get to the afternoon. So that low was way down here along the Georgia-South Carolina border. Now it's right around Chesterfield County. That's going to allow some of the heaviest rain to be just north of the system. It's usually just north of a low that'll have some of the heavier rain, sometimes the eastern side as well, where it is rotating. But that's where we're seeing some of the heavier showers for our eastern zones up into Anson and parts of Union County. And this eventually is going to start to rotate and then bend its way back towards the east. Also, some drier air is now starting to work in behind this. This drier air eventually is going to kill off the rain, especially as that low continues its voyage off towards the northeast and eventually back out into the Atlantic. So here's our futurecast. Let's go hour by hour. You have the heaviest rain, I think, really right now until about noon. And watch what happens. It starts to bend back, as I mentioned. It's slowly starting to twist. This is a low pressure system, so it's kind of circulating like this in general. But eventually, it's going to move its way further off towards the east. And that's exactly what we see as we work our way through the afternoon. So some of us are going to be dealing with rain pretty much now until about 2 o'clock. It just depends where you are. And then the intensity is going to waver even throughout the course of 30 minutes, where you can go from a light rain shower to a heavy rain shower back to a light rain shower in a 20-minute period. We've been seeing it on and off all morning long. But I think it's once you get to about 2 to 4 o'clock, we're going to clear out a lot of this activity. So good news there. At that point, I think the dry air is starting to take over. The center of the low is starting to distance itself from some of these outer bands. And that means by 5 o'clock, most of them are going to stay dry. Now, that doesn't guarantee you're going to see sunshine, but I really do, with a high confidence, think at some point between about 4 and 8 o'clock, you're slowly going to start to see more and more sunshine develop. So sunshine always follows rain. One of my favorite sayings. Downtown Monroe, it's cloudy. That's the way it looks. This is pretty much the way it's going to look most of the day. So not really a motivating start to your Thursday. And then that's why our Napometer is at really a big high. Yeah, I know it's into the deep purple where you just want to close your eyes, roll back to sleep. Totally understand it, but at least we will have a brighter end to the day. But it's going to feel super steamy at that point. It's almost feeling better when it's actively raining because, hey, it's just damp. But then once we get the sun to come back out, those roads are going to be actively evaporating the water, where it's instantly turning into condensation, so it looks like steam coming from it. And then humid and muggy environments are still set for tomorrow as well, so I want everyone to kind of keep that in mind. Our atmospheric moisture is also really building as we work our way through the weekend. We have a little bit of a break heading into Monday. There's a so close to seeing dry air work our way in to next Wednesday and Thursday, but realistically, we're stuck in this tropical environment to this humid environment. I know that's pretty typical for June, but it's a little disappointing. I don't have at least one comfortable day that might sneak its way back in. As far as the temperatures are concerned, though, they are all over the place. So we have 76 today. Today is the coolest day that I have going forward. It's the rain cool there and the clouds most of the day. And honestly, if we didn't have that little bit of sunshine hope by the end of the day, I would be having our high probably close to about 72, 73. 90 degrees on Friday and Saturday. 2 shots at 90. Still haven't done it this year. We haven't even done 89, so I think we're going to hit that at least one of those days. And then a better chance for storms, I think, heading into your Saturday evening. But even Friday is going to have a chance for an isolated shower or a thunderstorm. So our data, the models that I trust the most, go out until about 68 hours. So that's close to 3 days. So we'll be able to see the rain today for your Friday, heading into Saturday and Saturday night. I'm going to show you that full futurecast coming up later on WCNC Plus. Let's call it in about 10 minutes or so. But first, a wet morning is never a good morning for your morning commute. And I think Majestic can back me up on this.
Oh, it has been so busy all morning long. I want to start with a few things. We'll start with just a live look of what's going on outside. If you're just waking up and joining us this morning, good morning to you. Yes, very, very wet. We're seeing wet roads. Also some ponding that's creating some issues. This is out on I-77 coming in from York County. All of this green is indicating where the roads are currently wet. The blue here is indicating where we currently do have that ongoing ponding. Let's head out to the west, out to Gastonia area. Right lane is blocked due to a crash on I-85 southbound, creating some big backups there. You can see it. That's going to cause some major delays this morning. I-485 southbound, a crash right here. That's exit 9. That's been ongoing for over an hour at Berry Hill. And then over to the east, I-85 again northbound, exit 43. That's out towards University City Boulevard. Seeing minimal impacts of that, but still going to slow you down by a few minutes this morning. And then finally, want to highlight this here. It's I-85 exit ramp to South Boulevard. Those northbound lanes being highly impacted with all red, meaning stop and go traffic. One thing that's interesting that we've been following throughout the morning show really is out towards Mount Holly. Hawthorne Road is blocked off still because of a crash earlier this morning. So if you typically take Hawthorne, you can't do that this morning. You're going to need to take Catawba Ave, head over towards Main Street, and then get on Highway 27. And of course, just do the opposite if you're coming in from the north, heading into the south. We'll have another check on those roads coming up in just a few minutes. Lisa.
Thanks, Majestic. 8:11 now. You are taking a live look at the U.S. Capitol this morning. The U.S. Senate is still debating the president's massive tax and spending bill. The House has already passed it, and there is mounting pressure from Democrats, independents, even some Republicans to vote against this plan. Critics argue that it would cause nearly 300,000 folks in North Carolina to lose their Medicaid coverage.
Joining us now is Cody Kinsley. Cody's the former Secretary of the State Department of Health and Human Services, currently working as a senior policy advisor with Johns Hopkins University. Cody, it was your job to oversee the state's Medicaid expansion a couple of years ago. Talked to you many times about it. It provided coverage to more than 600,000 people. Would this undo all of that work?
Well, actually, before Medicaid, I want to start with folks that currently get their health care in North Carolina through healthcare.gov.
Recording in progress.
There's 1 million folks that get their health insurance through healthcare.gov in North Carolina. People like my parents, before they went on Medicare, they were both working. They couldn't get insurance through their jobs, so they went online and got their insurance there. Almost every single one of those 1 million people in North Carolina under this bill will see their premiums go up. Some of them, it'll go up so much that we're going to see about 250,000 North Carolinians lose their health insurance from healthcare.gov. That's before we even get to the impact of Medicaid. And so we're talking about 250,000 or 750,000 people getting their rates up. Premiums. We're talking about 1/4 of folks on ACA losing their insurance. We're talking about 250,000 folks on Medicaid losing their insurance. This is a disaster for healthcare coverage and costs in North Carolina.
And we know there are different stipulations with Medicare and with Medicaid, and then there are those who are working and are insured and others who are not. The Republicans argue that working Americans won't be impacted. Senator Tillis, in fact, suggesting that undocumented immigrants are the ones who would lose coverage. Is that an accurate description?
Medicaid already doesn't allow for coverage for undocumented immigrants, and the vast majority of folks that are on Medicaid already are working or they're caregivers for sick loved ones. What this bill does is add more requirements and more processes, and I think healthcare is too complicated already. So having to fill out more forms, going to offices more often, it's that kind of sand in the gears that is going to actually drive people coming off enrollment. They're eligible. They just don't have the time in their busy lives, their multiple part-time jobs to fill out forms. And look, nobody is sitting at home on Medicaid getting money from Medicaid. They're all, the providers are the ones that stand to lose out here. And that's where I'm worried most for rural North Carolina. In rural North Carolina, we've had a dozen hospitals close over the last decade. With all these folks losing coverage, our rural hospitals are going to feel it first and most.
8:14 right now. A lot of folks watching here on the stream are working from home, and you know what? They might have coverage because of their employer. But you argue that this is going to impact all of us if these people, whether it's on Medicaid or otherwise, lose coverage.
That's right. Look, when more and more people are coming in the front door of my doctor's office and don't have a way to pay, how does my doctor's office stay open? They have two choices. They can either raise my prices or they can close. And that's the story that North Carolinians know well, looking at these nearly dozen hospitals that have closed over the last decade. Too many folks were walking in the front door without insurance. That's why every North Carolinian came together to work hard to get Medicaid expanded, because we understood that by closing the coverage gap, we could help all of us. And we see this in states across the country. When you have lower uninsurance rates, you have more controlled costs. So this is pushing us in the wrong direction.
And you just mentioned, Cody, that there have been several hospitals that have closed. Talk about the true impact for those rural communities. Again, many of them already having to travel miles to get access to health care just because of what has happened with hospital closures, not as many physicians in town close to them.
Well, in addition to the more than 500,000 people that will lose coverage in this bill, there's also a number of other provisions in the bill that will control how Medicaid gives those rural providers and those labor and delivery clinics in those rural hospitals additional funding so that they can stay open. Look, these hospitals need a certain number of people to come through the door so that they can stay open. And in these small communities that are so vibrant and exciting, there just aren't enough folks that need those services every day to keep them open. So Medicaid gives them extra money to sustain those services. This bill puts those payments at risk, and it pulls more money out of them, putting those hospitals at risk, and they can't balance their budgets, and we're going to see an increased risk of closure if this bill passes as it's currently written.
Do we have a clear idea yet what this could mean for people on what someone called food stamps or SNAP benefits?
Well, this bill takes out about $700 million from the SNAP program in North Carolina, and it actually puts a lot of burden on our counties. Right now, our counties do the work in North Carolina supporting people to get access to food, and so we're going to see county costs go up because the county administrative responsibility. So it's going to actually increase the cost for all state taxpayers if this bill passes as is with regard to SNAP. And look, if less people get access to healthy food, where do they end up? They end up in the emergency department, which is a very expensive place for them to be. So we're going to end up paying even more for this in the long run.
Already this week, we've done stories about food pantries not having enough food to help those already in need. And so certainly not a great situation there. It sounds though like Senators Tillis and Budd are both on board with this plan. What is your message to them as they're going to be discussing and debating this?
I have deep respect for our legislators, and we have been able to work together in bipartisan ways to do things around mental health reform, to support North Carolina. And I really hope that they look very carefully at the details of how this will impact North Carolinians and work to make it better.
Cody Kinsley, former DHHS secretary here in the great state of North Carolina. Cody, good to talk to you.
Good to be here. Thank you.
All right, 8:17, turning back now to breaking news we've been following all morning long right here on WCNC Plus. A number of transit authority buses there on the outskirts of Philadelphia on fire, sending a thick plume of smoke into the air. It appears that just in the last 30 minutes since we first brought you this breaking news story, that firefighters seem to have a much better hold on this fire. The smoke has diminished significantly. This happening in the area of Nicetown and in what they call a bus graveyard. Basically, the transit authority there in southeastern Pennsylvania uses this parking lot to sort of put the buses not currently in the rotation there for people. So good news here is also that it doesn't appear that there would be a lot of people at a place like this.
And certainly some improvement, because as you said, we aren't seeing the flames anymore. When we first started looking at this, there were massive flames and just that huge plume of thick black smoke. But again, things seem to be improving there. A number of crews you can see still on the scene, still putting water on that, because certainly not a great situation there. But again, no word yet if there are any injuries or the extent of this damage, how many buses in fact. But again, the graveyard, so these aren't SEPTA buses. gases that were actually in use.
And Chris, you were telling us earlier the science behind some of this smoke is you can tell sort of the dynamic of what's happening there on the ground because of the color of the smoke.
Yeah, and that thick black smoke can happen for a number of different reasons, and we're going to go through that. So here's the science of it, and let's overlay from the graphics. So the reason why you ever see thick black smoke, it's a little bit better now, is because when you're burning without enough oxygen, it messes with the combustion process, because oxygen, it's clear gas. We don't see it. So the more oxygen you get in there, it's not going to be a big deal. So if you've ever been behind a car where thick black smoke's coming through, that's because there's an oxygen imbalance and combustion's not working, since they are combustion engines. This is also causes a tiny breakdown into tiny carbon particles. Carbon, think about it, physically is almost like coal, is black as night. And that's exactly what you're seeing. So you're seeing these tiny little particles that actually do really well at absorbing light. I'm talking about if light shines on them, they absorb 95 to 99% of all light. So that actually creates that deep black color that you're seeing there, because the light physically can't get through. And it's that process that this happens. But when does this happen? There's certain processes that this happens a whole lot more. It's primarily going to be if, say, in this scenario, if you're burning rubber and other certain things, plastics will also do this as well. So I think a lot of the rubber from the tires were potentially doing this, but also oil fires, petroleum. Even though likely they took a lot of the gas out of some of these vehicles, it would have been a much bigger situation if they were fully loaded. But oil fires burn dirty as they well, and that's usually why you see a little bit more of that blacker smoke. And then house fires can also do this, such as foam, carpets, and furniture can burn black, and then industrial processes as well with poor combustion control, as I mentioned. But also think about what a bus has. It has foam, it has different parts of furniture and carpets. So there's so many different things here that led to that black smoke. So even though you're not seeing it right now, it still was some of the blackest smoke that I personally have ever seen from some of these fires. And that's also incredibly dangerous, because if we go back to the fire that we most recently saw here in Charlotte, that structure fire, it was black, but not as black as what we just saw there.
It poses health risks for folks who live in the neighboring communities there in Nicetown, Pennsylvania. We'll continue to keep our eye on the situation and keep you posted right here on WCNC Plus. In the meantime, another story we're following right now, CMPD has made an arrest in a deadly hit and run from last month. Police tell us 25-year-old Tyjon Carney faces a number of charges in the death of 18-year-old Aleki Lange. Investigators say Carney hit Lange and another missionary as they were riding bikes on Beatties Ford Road May 1st. We're told Carney left the scene. He was taken into custody Monday.
This morning, a child still fighting for her life after being seriously hurt in a drive-by shooting that happened in Pageland, that's in South Carolina. Investigators say 7-year-old Skylar Baker was sleeping in her bed when shots were fired into her home Sunday morning. As police continued their search for the person who pulled the trigger, city leaders, neighbors, and friends came together, all dressed in pink, sending their prayers and being there for the family during this tough time.
I know God can heal. I know God can deliver.
That's a child. And I got kids of my own, so I know how I would feel if that was my child.
This means so much to us. I've held it together until today when I stepped out the car and I seen everybody here.
Skylar's family says she remains in critical condition. They're asking that anyone who can help find the person responsible to come forward.
Turning back to your forecast right now and the impacts out there. Rainy commutes, Chris.
Yeah, not great. We are looking at still a gray sky here through our Dallas camera, so this shows a testament of what it's like. We're about 1,500 feet up, and whenever the clouds are this thick, this high up, just really shows that we have a low deck of clouds. The sunshine is not possible anytime soon. 67 degrees in Hickory, 68 degrees right now in Statesville, and then 69 right around the Charlotte area. The warmest parts, Lancaster and Cheraw, you're at 70 degrees with that rain-cooled air, not really cooling us down too much. So the umbrella weather is definitely activated, but I think you mainly need this for the course of this morning. It's now until about noon that I think we see most of the rain fall. Hour by hour as we're continuing through the afternoon, temperatures not moving too much from here, only about 2 to 4 degrees, getting into the lower 70s. But by the middle of the afternoon, we're saying goodbye to the rain. Yesterday we were at 83 degrees, a decent day overall. Today we're at 76 degrees just because we're lacking sunshine for so long. So look at our satellite and radar across the 45 loop. light to moderate rain still consistently coming down. Some of those yellows and those oranges are now pushing their way a little bit further off towards the north, but still some very heavy rain. Lake Wiley, you're about to see a big uptick there as well. This is going to be the case in scenario. Some areas seeing a bald spot, other ones starting to see that rain work its way through. As for tonight, temperatures dropping down to the mid-60s. Tomorrow, 90 degrees. Saturday, 90 degrees. It's hot, it's humid, with a chance for storms each and every day. I'll have a little bit more on your storm potential coming up over the next half hour here on WCNC Plus. In just minutes, I'm also going to show our Guy Roofing 7-day forecast. But first, we have to get to traffic with Majestic.
It is a soaking mess out there this morning for your Thursday morning commute. One of those days where your windshield wipers are going and those roads are very wet. Not just wet, but we're also seeing some ponding out there, limited visibility, just kind of depending on where you are. A combination of heavy downpours for some of you and a little bit of fog that has also developed. Want to show you our live traffic maps. It is very busy out there. I'm going to highlight a few of the ongoing accidents that are creating the biggest problems out there. So right lane is blocked due to a crash. This is on I-85 southbound lanes just after exit 19. You can see all of the red here, so stop and go traffic currently at this time. Another one that's been ongoing for over an hour now. It's out towards Berry Hill. It's on I-485 southbound, being impacted by that because of an ongoing crash. To the east, we do have those in slow medium impacts here. It's a crash on I-85 as well. Northbound this time, exit 43, that's University City Boulevard. And then to the south, this one here, it's I-45, the exit ramp to South Boulevard. Look at all of this red. Just those northbound lanes going to be really slow moving this morning. So lots of slowdowns. Make sure you take it easy as you're heading out the door because the rain really isn't helping with the traffic this morning.
All right, live pictures right now. This is uptown, so this is what you're facing as you head out. This is what the skyline looks like. Looks like a gray sky out there, clouds and fog. So give yourself plenty of time if you got a later morning commute. Coming up in just another minute, another check of your weather and traffic, and a look at the headlines coming up at 8:30 right here on WCNC Plus.
Well, just letting you know, things will be a lot drier by later on this evening, but in the meantime, we're still dealing with some very heavy rain, especially right around the Cabarrus area up into Lincolnton and parts of Gaston County. We are seeing also some drier air that's starting to work in, so things will get a little bit better as we work our way through the afternoon, but it's going to be a patient game trying to get there. We really don't see a break in the rain until after 3 o'clock. Could even see some sunshine to end the day heading into the evening. High temperatures only in the mid-70s. 76 will be your coolest high that we have this week. Then back to 90 degrees, a hot and humid day on Friday and Saturday. Friday comes with a slight chance for an isolated storm. Chance for storms heading into your Saturday evening. And then after that, a mix of the 80s, all varieties from 80 to 88 through next week. Majestic, been an active morning.
Very active this morning, and the rain is not helping with any of it. We have multiple accidents to let you know about this morning. Here's I-77 coming in from York County. Hard to even see because of pockets of heavier rain, and also we have some low-lying fog for some of you. You can see area roads are just soaking wet. Want to take you out to the west, though. Out towards Gastonia, good morning to your right-hand lane right now. It's blocked on I-85 southbound around exit 19, causing some big backups there. Another one that's quite problematic. This is I-485 southbound lanes. Again, a crash just after exit 9 there near Berry Hill. If you take I-85 northbound, there's a crash at exit 43. That's University City Boulevard. Just take it easy for your Thursday morning commute. Slow it down.
You are streaming live on WCNC Plus at 8:30 on this Thursday morning. I'm Lisa Washington.
And I'm Ben Thompson. Happening today, parents and staff are expected to show up at the CMS board meeting to continue to demand answers and transparency. It comes on the heels of Archery Kell principal Jamie Brooks' sudden retirement announcement just last week.
WCNC Charlotte's Destiny Richards joins us in the studio this morning. Now, Destiny, this all comes days after several teachers actually called out of school on Monday as a way to protest.
That's right, and now they're expected to bring their concerns directly to the CMS board tonight. According to the meeting agenda, several people are among the first signed up to speak during public comment about the situation at Archery Kell, including at least one faculty member. The lack of transparency surrounding the abrupt retirement of Principal Brooks has deeply divided the school's community. She had led Archery Kell High since 2008, but was quietly suspended with pay on May 2nd. The district didn't inform families until a public records request brought it to light weeks later. Then came a brief retirement message, still with no explanation. On Monday, frustration reached a boiling point with several teachers calling out sick in protest, wearing purple and lining Archery Kell Road with signs reading "Bring Back Brooks." Parents are also demanding answers.
We still not hear from CMS about what is going on. We need partnership from the CMS board and the superintendent.
Tonight's CMS board meeting starts at 6 p.m. at the Charlotte Mecklenburg Government Center in Uptown. Anyone who wants to speak during public comment has until noon today to sign up by filling out a form online, calling, or emailing the board comms email. We have more information on how to do that in this story, now live on our WCNC Charlotte News app. Lisa.
So, Destiny, we know that the principal is a district employee, and of course, this is a personnel matter, so they can't share a lot of details. Have they responded at all to any concerns about the principal's suspension and then subsequent retirement?
CMS has not responded. So far, they've remained mostly silent on the specifics behind Principal Brooks' suspension and the sudden retirement announcement. The district did notify Archery Kell families that Brooks would retire effective June 1st, but they have not explained the reasons for her suspension or back in early May. And despite repeated requests for comment from us, CMS has not provided details either. And we know that the lack of communication is what's fueling all this frustration for parents and teachers. On that list of people who are signed up to speak, it's not just about the Archery Kell situation specifically, but just communication in general from the district. So lots of people showing up demanding transparency directly from district leaders.
I'm sure we'll hear some of those frustrations tonight. All right, Destiny, thanks so much for that.
Turning back to your forecast right now, and the weather impacts today, rain.
Yeah, and we already had a decent amount of rain so far in Charlotte. Check it out. So this is based on the hour-by-hour amount of rain that we've seen so far. We've seen about 0.03 of an inch at 4 a.m. 5 a.m. was the wettest hour that we had so far, and then it's been really consistent over the last couple of hours. That's that darker green that you usually see on a radar. We now have over ½ inch of rain so far, and we have only just begun to rain. Here is what it looks like on our satellite and radar. We have a warm front that's starting to nudge into the area. This is all associated with a coastal low. This is the one that had that 10% chance to turn into maybe a tropical depression. Not even close. Didn't have the right things working for it. And then the back side of this eventually is going to work in some drier air. So that's going to be good news for us. But I want to really talk about the rain totals. The rain totals have already been jumping close to an inch in some spots, but especially the further north that you go in Gaston County, now over into Lincolnton. I think this is going to be one of those problem areas that you're going to have a lot of nuisance flooding. The reason why is notice how it hasn't really moved too much. And what's going to happen is this system eventually is going to push its way further off towards the east. But right now it's pushing its way to the north, and it's going to kind of do one of these loops before it starts to do that. And the reason why that's a concern is that heavy rain is just going to dance around. So we are going to have some flooding issues, I think, very minor, but we're already up to about 9/10 of an inch of rain. So almost an inch alone just from that one rain system. And then rain totals all over the place. So I just wanted to really mention that slight flooding potential that could happen through that stretch. It's really in between I-85 and I-40 that I think we're going to see the heaviest rain in the near term. Here's what I'm kind of talking about, how you start to see that twist that I was just showing you here. I'll draw it again. rain was moving this way and then it's starting to move in this direction. You'll actually see that actively through our futurecast. But the good news is once it actually starts pushing its way to the east, we drag in some drier air. So that's why you're seeing the coverage area start to really wind down behind this system. And then by about 3 o'clock, I think you still have some lighter rain. The further west you go, starting to see the sun maybe appear around Morganton up into Boone. And then closer to 5 o'clock, I think most of the rain is done for most of the area. Charlotte, I think it's going to be a waiting game. It depends where you are. Like some of us in Huntersville might see the sunshine at 4 to 5 o'clock, but you might not see the sun in Matthews until about 6, 7. It just depends. That cloud cover is going to be really stubborn at first, but I think most of us will see the sunshine at least by the time the sun is setting at 8 o'clock. So yeah, not the best Thursday. We can all admit that. As far as our current visibilities for the time being with some of that rain, there will be some low visibilities on and off. We're down to a half mile with some heavy rain and some active fog around Lancaster. That's another caveat that comes with this. Sometimes when you have these heavier downpours, there's always going to be that possibility that you could have maybe a second coming of some dense fog to form. So how it feels today is humid, but you're really not going to notice how humid it is until the rain stops. And then once that happens, we have a lot of the evaporation that condenses into a little bit of fog from place to place. But it really is Friday and Saturday that it feels even more humid. I know, lucky us. Tomorrow morning also has a chance for some fog, just depending on the wind speeds because of all of the rain that we saw today. Here's that atmospheric moisture. It's all over the place. We have a slight break heading into your Monday. Monday right now, by the way, is trending to be my pick of the week, just the way things are looking. And then after that, it's just humid. It's June, y'all. Welcome to it. Here's a typical June week. Usually you range anywhere from 80 to 90 degrees on and off through the middle of the month. Today's an anomaly though, just because we have no sunshine. We oftentimes will have 1 or 2 mid-70 days during the middle of summer, but that usually is a torrential downpour or some sort of tropical system that rolled in. Hey, kind of close enough for a scenario today. But tomorrow and Saturday aren't just 90-degree days. They're potentially going to be our first and second warmest day of 2025. So I'm talking about some of the most humid air and the hottest air they've had so far. So kind of keep that in mind. It's always really the first hot one that we could overexert ourselves. Still not too bad. I'm talking about 90, still feels like 93 at times. And then after that, temperatures down to 80 degrees with the on and off rain and another chance for storms on Tuesday. Back to the mid 80s as we head into a slightly drier pattern next Wednesday. But this is certainly going to be an active pattern. We have rain, then we take a break. Rain, then take a break. Rain, then take a break. That could be a song there. Majestic.
I think you might have just come up with a song. I like it.
Rain,
it
then
sounds
take a break.
just about right for that forecast. Let's get a look at those area roadways. It is a mess outside. Let's look at some of those drive times because they're really starting to pile up. About 52 minutes to get you from Waxhaw over towards Charlotte and around an hour coming in from Gastonia. You can see a live look outside. Roads are wet. Seeing a little bit of fog out there for parts of York County. Want to break down a few things. Let me just tell you, if you are taking I-85 southbound, you better pack your patience because it is slowed down. We have a first accident here. Left-hand lane is blocked due to a crash on I-85 southbound at exit 17. That's Chester Street, but that's not the only one. Just downstream a bit, we have another one, another right-hand lane that's blocked due to an additional crash, still impacting those southbound lanes at exit 19. As we're looking at I-485, those outer lanes are actually blocked now due to a crash there. Southbound again, exit 9, just seeing a ton of red, and again, the weather is not helping with any of this. Tryon Street, a new accident just popping up. Northbound crash there at Sugar Creek Road. And the final one I want to let you know about is right here, I-485, the exit ramp to South Boulevard northbound. You can see those slowdowns. They are active there. So make sure you're slowing it down. We'll have another check on those roads in just a few.
Thanks, Majestic. 8:39 now. You're taking a live look over the U.S. Capitol this morning as reaction continues to pour in following President Trump's announcement of a new travel ban. People from 12 countries are now banned from coming to the United States. NBC's Chris Pallone is following the latest for us in Washington this morning.
The White House says a sweeping new travel ban will go into effect Monday on foreign nationals from a dozen countries, primarily in Africa and the Middle East. In a video posted to X, President Trump said people entering the U.S. from those countries are not properly vetted.
We don't want them.
The president cited national security threats for the ban, including this week's terror attack in Colorado, though Egypt, the home country of the suspect in that attack, is not on the list.
We cannot have open migration from any country where we cannot safely and reliably vet and screen those who seek to enter the United States.
Democrats call this latest Trump travel ban a distraction.
You distract people by making them think that they're at war with other Americans, making them think that they have something to fear from people who look different from them or speak a different language.
It comes as one of the president's top allies ratchets up attacks on Mr. Trump's signature spending and tax cut bill, now winding through Congress. Billionaire Elon Musk writing, "Call your senators, call your congressmen, kill the bill."
I don't think very many senators are that interested in what Elon has to say about it.
Musk complains the bill will increase the budget deficit. It extends the president's 2017 tax cut, spends billions on border security, and includes cuts to Medicaid and food assistance programs. Nonpartisan budget experts warn it would add $2.5 trillion to the nation's debt. Republicans now trying to discredit those projections.
You can't go back to the drawing board, and we shouldn't. We have a great product to deliver here.
Republican leaders in Congress say they want the bill on the president's desk by the 4th of July. President Trump has not publicly responded to Elon Musk's criticism just yet, but that could change later today when the president hosts the Chancellor of Germany at the White House. The president has not met with reporters since Friday. In Washington, Chris Pallone, NBC News.
New this morning, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce says ongoing tariffs could cost the average American household an extra $4,000 per year. From grills and utensils to sunscreen and swimming pools, experts say many of our summer staples are made outside of the U.S. Those products, along with fireworks, beach toys, and towels, could see price increases of about 30%. Meanwhile, bikes and sandals are expected to cost 60% more. Experts say now is a good time to take stock of what you already have and try to use secondhand shopping if possible.
Looking ahead to next week, President Trump expected to make a trip to Fort Bragg. WRAL-TV reports the president will be in Fayetteville on Tuesday. At this point, it's not clear if he plans to speak to the public there or if it's going to be a private event. We'll be sure to keep you updated as we learn more in the coming days. In South Carolina, Governor McMaster says he plans to veto just 11 line items in the state's $14.7 billion budget. The spending plan includes transportation improvements, teacher pay raises, and enough extra funding to put a resource officer in every single school in the state.
This budget provides enough money for every school to have one. And ladies and gentlemen, that makes a big difference, not only for the safety of the children and the teachers and all of those at the school, but also the confidence and comfort of the parents to know that's one more thing they do not have to worry about.
The governor attributed the low veto count this year to the removal of earmarks, often called pork spending. They're one-time local project allocations he has long championed to be removed. If no lawmakers choose to override the governor's veto, the budget will take effect next month. This morning, we want to make sure that you are asking, where's the money? Just to make sure your 401k account isn't one of the 29 million that are sitting untouched, lost, or forgotten.
Reports show Americans have $1.7 trillion sitting in unused 401k accounts. That's about $56,000 per account. The reason this is so common is because some people forget to consolidate or roll over their money when they change jobs. To find out if you have an untouched account, visit the National Registry of Unclaimed Retirement Benefits. Type in your Social Security number. So, good news is that you may have some extra cash in your name.
Well, Fidelity reports the average 401k plan savings rate recently notched a record high in the first quarter of this year. The savings rate, including milestone employee and company contributions, jumped to 14.3%. That's the closest it's ever been to Fidelity's recommended 15% savings target. 8:44 right now on WCNC Plus. Turning now to a consumer alert. Just how safe is the chicken or turkey in your fridge? Salmonella is a top cause of food poisoning, but the Department of Agriculture recently backed off a plan to tighten safety rules for raw poultry.
So what does that mean for your family, and how can you help avoid food poisoning right at home? Here is Ron Jones with some tips.
Each year, more than 1.3 million Americans get sick from salmonella, and chicken and turkey are often to blame. And the problem isn't going away. Brian Ronholm, Food Policy Director at Consumer Reports, says that's exactly why stronger regulations are needed now more than ever.
So when infections keep rising year after year,
it's very clear that the current system isn't equipped to handle this issue adequately.
In 2022, Consumer Reports found salmonella in nearly 1/3 of the ground chicken tested and in some turkey samples too. The results pointed to serious gaps in federal food safety oversight. To address ongoing concerns, last year the USDA proposed a rule aimed at making poultry safer. It would have classified some salmonella-contaminated poultry as adulterated, which would have forced recalls and kept unsafe products off store shelves. But now the agency is backing down.
So unfortunately, what this means is the burden shifts to the consumer. The consumer is the one that has to figure out how best to protect their family from foodborne illness. And that's unfair when you consider everything that a consumer has to deal with on a daily basis.
With that in mind, there are ways you can lower your risk of salmonella right now. At the market, keep raw meat in a disposable bag and separate it from ready-to-eat foods. At home, thaw meat in the refrigerator, not on the counter, and place it on a plate or in a bowl to catch any drips. In the kitchen, avoid cross-contamination. Don't rinse raw poultry. Wash your hands and utensils with hot soapy water and use separate cutting boards for meat and produce. And most importantly, always cook chicken and turkey to 165 degrees Fahrenheit. The meat thermometer is the only way to be sure. You can buy a Consumer Reports top-rated digital meat thermometer for under $20. Simple steps that can make a big difference in keeping your family safe.
Ron Jones reporting for us there. This week, we told you about a serious tomato recall linked to a deadly salmonella risk. You can find details on that on WCNC.com. And a reminder, salmonella is especially dangerous for kids, older adults, and those with weakened immune systems. With fewer protections being in place, being careful at home is one of the best ways to keep your family safe.
Meanwhile, packages of organic ground beef sold at Whole Foods stores across the country and here in the Carolinas could also be contaminated with E. coli. Federal safety officials issued a public health alert for Organic Rancher organic ground beef. There haven't been any illnesses linked to the product so far. Officials urge you to throw it away if you have it. The products have the establishment number 40-27 inside the USDA mark of inspection. If you were looking to swim at Ebenezer Park and take advantage of these warmer temperatures, you're going to have to wait a bit longer. Routine water tests found elevated levels of E. coli in that area of the lake. Officials at the Rock Hill Park say its swimming area will be closed until further notice as they wait on additional testing.
Right now, emergency crews are working to contain an oil spill in Baltimore's Inner Harbor. Maryland leaders say about 2,000 gallons of diesel fuel overflowed from 2 tanks at Johns Hopkins. The tanks power backup generators at patient care sites in the east part of that city. Johns Hopkins says they quickly told state officials and are now helping with that cleanup. Well, folks in the Midwest waking up after a second night in a row of severe weather. Take a look at this. A funnel cloud captured on camera in Sherrard, Illinois. It comes after a deadly tornado just several weeks ago devastated parts of St. Louis after sirens there did not go off. Many now hoping to rebuild before more severe weather hits. Shaquille Brewster now has more.
Another round of severe weather and at least one funnel cloud captured on camera threatening the Midwest.
A new tornado warning just issued.
Flash flood warnings and tornado sirens blaring in and around St. Louis. Grocery shoppers sheltering in place and trees toppled over. Less than 3 weeks after an EF3 tornado ripped through the city.
We're in the tornado! Oh!
Killing 5 people after the sirens weren't activated. St. Louis police warning structures damaged in that storm are not safe to seek shelter in. The new threat coming after a deadly night of storms further south. Dallas fire teams say a rescue boat flipped, throwing first responders into fast-moving waters as they tried to save a driver overnight.
Thankfully, even though they got swept downstream, they were able to make it to safe refuge.
After waiting for the water levels to recede, those responders found one man dead inside a vehicle. The flooding was part of a system that brought torrential downpours and 2 tornadoes to the Kansas City area. The National Weather Service assessing the trail of fallen trees in towns like Independence, Missouri.
I can say with confidence that we have at least one tornado path, damage path here through Independence.
How serious of a tornado?
It's at least a low NDF1.
This new video shows the funnel cloud approaching an engineering building that a tree hit as J.C. Mason was working inside.
It was crazy. When we heard that crash, it was big. It shook the building a little bit.
And hazy skies from Wisconsin and Michigan to New York City as smoke from more than 100 out-of-control Canadian wildfires billows into the U.S., resulting in a code red air quality alert for swaths of the northern Midwest.
All right, well, a heads up now if you have summer plans for the Caribbean. A record amount of sargassum seaweed piled up on beaches in May, and according to a new report, more is expected this month. The brown prickly algae is smothering shorelines in some popular vacation destinations. Now it's showing up in larger clumps in Florida. Experts say it's disrupting summer tourism, killing wildlife, and even releasing toxic gases. The 38 million metric tons is the largest quantity of algae seen across the region since scientists began studying the sargassum belt in 2013. The amount seems to be growing each year, but scientists say they still aren't sure why.
8:51 right now. Turning back to your forecast with Chris. And Chris, we like to complain about days like this, but we need days like this. And you actually have more on the actual science behind algae.
Yeah, and I just want to say why this could be an ongoing problem. For one, seaweed is one of the best absorbers of CO2. So the less that you see, if a lot of breaking up and washing on shore, that's not great. But since algae is involved with the seaweed that we were just mentioning, it's actually a really unhealthy cycle. And then whenever you get an algae bloom, it keeps on feeding on itself because that dark algae absorbs heat. Warmer water enhances the bloom, and those thicker blooms develop. And it continues to go in this cycle. It's not really until you're able to fully wash things away, and there's not really too much to really improve that type of situation, especially this time of year because things are only getting warmer. Also, heavy precipitation that can come from tropical systems can wash additional nutrients into the water. So warming waters favor the growth of a lot of algae. That is never a good situation. No algae here, but we're dealing with a lot of rain. But as Ben put, it's just not really a great day today, but it's one of those ones that you can maybe take advantage of if you want to take a nap. If you have nothing to do some stuff inside that you otherwise have been putting off. So it's forcing you to be inside, and I think that we will have a brighter sky by the end of the day. But check out our futurecast rainfall totals. I would really take some of these with a grain of salt, but what I'm really trying to focus in on here is that some of us, I think, could still pick up from this point, because this is what this model does. It takes a new hourly update that from this point going forward for the rest of the morning and the afternoon, we still have a chance of up to another inch of rain in some locations. Now, disregard the zeros, just showing a general range that we still have an inch and a half that could fall for some locations. Our rainfall chances after today are isolated to scattered. Doesn't mean you're not going to see a lot of rain from these. It's just today's the only one that you're looking at hours of rain on end. Here's what our futurecast is looking like. I think if you live in between the I-40 and I-85 corridor and within 20 miles of each interstate, that's where most of the heaviest rain is going to set up in the near term. This model also showing that we're going to dry out through parts of Union County over to Anson County. I think that you're still going to have some showers in between here, but what happens really as we close out the morning and begin the afternoon, this rain finally starts to move east. Instead of spiraling and looping in this fashion, it'll actually start to move, and drier air will start to work in at that point, and that's going to dry us out. So I think we will see some sunshine by the conclusion of the afternoon, or at least by the early evening. Worst case scenario is you see it when the sun is physically setting. That's never a good setup. And then overnight tonight, we're going to have a chance for a little bit of fog. Now we move into Friday. We have multiple rain chances going forward because of the amount of moisture with some fronts nearby. This is an active pattern. So tomorrow, another chance for showers and storms, but not everyone sees them. I think it's really close to about 2 o'clock. We start to see this activity flourish from place to place. I think starting right around Morganton, Taylorsville, and Hickory, they'll start in the northwest, work their way to the southeast. These are the ones that are very slow moving and exhaust themselves, but that also means you have a chance for about a ½ inch to an inch of rain, come down pretty quickly. By the time the sun is setting, I think that we're done with those. Now we move on to our next chance for rain. Saturday is going to have a little bit more of a question mark until really tomorrow once we get a little bit more data, but there's indications of one of two scenarios. Either one, you have storms to end the afternoon and begin the evening, or it's more of an overnight event that storms roll through. This is actually the best scenario because I think they'll be a lot weaker and not much of a case and scenario for us to be under a medium threat. But this is the Storm Prediction Center that's showing this. We're not going weather alert just because we're not really seeing a lot of indications that this for sure is going to happen. There's actually more things working against us having a severe weather outbreak here around the Charlotte area compared to us actually seeing one. So just one to note, but something that we'll keep an eye on. As far as our rainfall chances, they're up and down. We're still sticking into a on and off pattern as far as rain is concerned over the next 10 days. So don't put away the umbrella quite just yet, even once the rain ends a little bit later on today. These wet mornings, though, Majestic, that's all I can say.
It has been so busy this morning. Lots of accidents, unfortunately, to report. You can see and just tell how wet those roads are. And like Chris said, I mean, we're still dealing with that rain still coming down. We have wet roads. We also have a whole lot of ponding. I mean, look at this map. Well, you know you got some problems out there when there's that many icons popping up. Let's take you out to I-85 because let me tell you, if you're heading southbound, you have some big delays this morning. Multiple accidents. This one here, left lane is blocked because of a crash on I-85 southbound. It's on exit 17. Just to the south, though, another one, exit 19. Lots of red. We'll have more on this update coming up here shortly.
All right, Majestic, thanks so much. We want to get back to that breaking news out of Philadelphia we've been showing you this morning. Several of the buses there on fire at a maintenance facility. They call this the bus graveyard. There was lots of thick smoke in the air. Our news partner had this for us. We're going to have more coming up starting at 9 o'clock over on WCNC Plus. Make sure you continue to stay with us here, streaming live breaking news wherever it happens all day, only on WCNC Plus.
Well, good morning, everyone. Widespread rain still anticipating over the near term. We can expect that rain to really take a big step back by the late afternoon, but pretty much it's going to rain for you now until about 3 o'clock before we start to see some significant breaks. There will be a few breaks in between. This is also why we're the coolest day of the week. We have 76 because of that rain cooled air with some sunshine to end it. Near 90 on Friday and Saturday. It's a lot more humid on those days as well. Each day a storm chance through the weekend. Majestic, take it away. What's going on?
Lots of accidents on this Thursday morning. You can see it all popping up on my map here. Multiple problems out there on those area roads, and the rain surely has not helped with that morning commute. I-85 southbound, right by exit 17, there is a crash that's creating some slower moving conditions. This is already usually a jam-packed area, and another accident ongoing at exit 19. I-485, if you take those southbound lanes, this accident is really causing a backup. You can see all the red there is out towards exit 9. Make sure you take it slow. The rain is continuing to come down and create issues.
All right.